Okay. So last year was a tough year for me. But in a good way. Not like 2019. That shit was hell. But last year, 2021, that was terrible. I mean, but in a good way, like I said. It was extremely challenging. Not in terms of like my living, my home, my job, my stability was fine. It's recently been my birthday, so I'm reflecting. It's a new year for me. It was challenging because for the first time, in my life, I was getting opportunities, and God was shifting me to planes and meeting people and getting opportunities I've never ever had before or would imagine I would be able to get because of the stigma that I've always been boxed in my entire life by other people. Reason being, it's not important. A lot of times though, it's because they're ignorant or their perception, is short-sighted. So they can't see the heart of a person or what a person has to give. Or they do, and they just want to shit on it because they're jealous, Or they don't know, and they don't have ill intentions, but they're trying to make sense of what it is that they do see. So they just could put their own stereotypes, own assumptions on someone, And I've been doing that my whole life. I kind of just get labeled as someone who's throwaway, and kind of like just subculture. I've always been kind of treated and boxed in as someone who's subculture, who's not adequate, who, just someone who's just riffraff, just belongs to the streets or something, And I know I never ever let that actually get to me, like as far as how I saw me. But those stigmas create a box around your life to where you don't have the same opportunities as someone who doesn't have that stigma. So you make decisions and base your decisions based off of what you have available to you. So most of my life, I haven't really had the opportunities that I was granted this past year. God has really been shifting and transforming me to a place I've never been. A place I was never seemed like I was allowed to go or it was welcomed or invited. And it was really tough. Now, I don't want it to sound like I'm complaining, and I'm not. But it was just, I had to shift. I had to change. It was really hard because I didn't want to, I didn't want to continue the same habits or behaviors that I've grown accustomed to having to. Because now I'm in a different place setting. So when in Rome, right? You don't go about things with the same mentality as you did in the street. You go to the White House, you don't act like you're in the Bronx or something. I don't know. I'm trying to say. So I've had to really shift my way of thinking, my way of being, and also just accept that this is actually happening. And it's demanding me to assume a higher and a certain level and class of responsibility I've never had to before. So it was really, really difficult for me. There was a lot of shedding, a lot of transforming, a lot of transitioning. And because of that, it triggered me to party more often. And now there's nothing wrong going out and having a good time. But it is a problem when it becomes a problem. And for me, it became a problem. I was partying, if we want to call it that, 3 times a week. It went from 3 times a week, though, eventually down to 2 times a week. Once a week for a while. But then I got it down to like once every other week. And then from once a week to every other week. And then eventually like twice in a whole month, twice in a month, or once a month. How I was able to come down that way, and let me remind you, yes, hell yeah, y'all, it's obvious that Felix have a good time, and every now and then you like to go out. But the way I was doing it last year, and the reason why, that's not me. I don't do that, I don't condone it. I don't like to live my life that way. Like a crazy person. But it ended up becoming my coping mechanism. I was escaping and dealing with it in a way I never dealt with it in an unhealthy way like that before. So I would feel really ashamed and like really mad. I'll be like really mad at myself every time. I'll like be pissed at myself. You know, when I was 18, I had some roommates. There was one night we went out. We came back, woke up the next day, we're all hungover. I got bruises everywhere. And I said, "What happened to me?" And they were like, "Fee, that was you." What do you mean? And then they said, "That was you. You were like throwing yourself everywhere, but not in a crazy way, like I was drunk, you know. I was just being really rough with myself." And then I was like, I couldn't believe it. And then we were just looking at my bruises. They were like, "Damn, nobody has to beat up Fee. Fee will do it herself." And you know what? That's always stuck with me because it's so true. With everything, I'm so hard on myself. I am my own worst critic, and I'm really, really hard on myself. It's true. No one has to beat me up. I will do it all by myself. You know, I hold myself to really high standards. I have a really progressive way of thinking, and so I just don't have tolerance for myself to make any stupid decisions, or, you know, when I make a mistake, I make a mistake. But when I know better, or when I know I could have done better, oh my God, I beat myself up bad. So that was my thing. So I realized when I was partying a lot that every time I would get back in the morning or be on my way home, because it'll be in the morning all the time. I'll be late, okay? I was bad. I would be beating myself up. And then I realized the reason why it's the stronghold that's there is because I keep beating myself up. The more I beat myself up, the more I went to go do it again. You understand what I'm saying? The more I was hard on myself, the more I attacked myself, the more I didn't give myself any room to, you know, breathe. The more I went back and I did it and I partied, the more and more I would hang out. When I realized that, I repented. Repent means to pivot. Pivot means to do what? A 180. So I did a 180. Instead of beating myself up when I would party, I would start to give myself grace. And I just embrace that I did it and be okay that my kid is fine and everything's fine, everything's good. Be okay with it. Kind of almost allow myself to be a little self-entitled. Gave myself grace and that was it. And then the more I did that, the less I wanted to party and hang out, the less I wanted to do anything. And then so it became, and now it's like the spaces of time where I do hang out aren't as often and frequent and close together. I'm able to go a much longer period without wanting to hang out at all. But building off of that, but in connection to what I was saying originally about how I'm transitioning and stuff and what that has to do with it, well, I was using that as a crutch. And then what I learned through that crutch about allowing myself to have grace, I then applied to the struggles that I was dealing with that transformation. And I realized that the transformation was also just so hard because I wasn't embracing it completely. I was running away. I did have a crutch. I did have a way of escapism. I wasn't just embracing it. I was fighting it a lot, especially in the beginning. I would get so annoyed with people so easily. If you know me, you know I've got a lot of patience. Like if you're someone who has known me, like you've been in my life for enough time and hang out with me enough, like you know I'm not quick to anger. I get angry. But when I get angry, it ain't fun. But I'm not quick to anger. I'm slow to anger. I do have a lot of patience for people and things. But I just had no patience for anything. I came to a point where I started yelling. I was like, why do I have to think for everybody? I gotta think for everyone. Some people have to do for everyone all the time. It was so bad for me. Not only I had to do for everyone, I had to think for people. And that wasn't just at home or in my personal life. That's out also at work. It was in every area of my life. And on top of my mom. So for being a mom, you do things for your kid. Like, it was really hard, but it was a level of responsibility, a class of responsibility that I was not used to. In a type of way that I wasn't used to. And I had to grow into it. I had to fit into those shoes. Like, when you get new shoes and it's uncomfortable and it hurts your feet and you gotta break it in. That's what I had to do. But it was driving me crazy. The process was really tough. But I made it worse by running away. I made it worse by escaping. I made it worse by having a crutch instead of just embracing it and giving myself grace for not feeling positive and happy about it all the time and grateful for it. I'm a big gratitude person. So there was also times where I'm like, what's wrong with me? Why am I being like this? I should be grateful. This kind of responsibility is a blessing. And I wasn't doing that. I didn't have that attitude, and I beat myself up for that too. So I didn't give myself grace there either. But I made it through. Took a while, but I made it through. I also learned that just as important as it is to be a diligent worker, it's just as important as it is to rest and to be serious and to have fun. All those things are important. Why am I saying this? You can say, oh yeah, that's common sense. For me, it wasn't. I grew up in an area in North New Jersey. We all know how it is. We all work hard. And if you're not in your shit, then if you're not keeping up, then all it takes is one step off and you're 10 steps behind. All that hard work, everybody's like this where I'm from. So I grew up with a good work ethic instilled in me. And I've always valued and had pride in my work ethic. And anywhere I've gone, anywhere I go, kick ass. I kick ass at my job. Until I don't, and then usually you see me quitting. But I've always been a good employee. I've always been have had a good work ethic. So 2020 was a pandemic. It taught me to sit back and look at that and realize that that's no way to live. But then to actually put it into practice and create a balance and understand that it's not just about balance too. Like, we all know it's important to be a good worker and have a good work ethic and all that and be a hustler and go get it. And that same level of importance, that same substance, the same substance that provides that value also exists with relaxing and with having fun. And I never looked at it that way. I just thought that you need to relax, you need to rest. And yeah, but there is substance to it. And I don't know how to explain it any deeper. But I saw it in a deeper way where it's like nutrients to your body. Your body needs vitamin A, vitamin B, vitamin C, vitamin D. Your A is your work, your B is your rest, your C is your serious, your D is your deep, your E is your fun, all X, Y, and Z. Those are like the nutrients we need for bodies, like the nutrients we have for the soul. It has its own substance to it. And when you have fun, you don't lose your value. I used to have this little false sense of insecurity that the moment I relax or the moment I don't put my nose to the grind 24/7, wake up, grind, go to sleep. And now, I used to, especially back in the day when I didn't have my kid, wake up, grind, go to sleep, wake up. The only time I would rest is when I was sleeping. I would always be grinding. I think I had a subtle fear of sense of security or loss of the sense of security that where I garnered my value from of being this person who worked well. And I learned that you don't lose your value when you relax. You actually gain value for yourself more and for others. Kind of building off of these principles that I'm speaking on, there was another thing I learned where I've never really experienced stress like the average adult does. Thank God that He blessed me with the capacity of understanding and patience, tolerance, and all of that. But this past year, 2021, I did. For the first time, I experienced stress in a way that the average typical adult does. And it was not fun, honey. You know, they don't call it the #1 killer for no reason. That shit wasn't fun. And I have more compassion for people who do have a hard time dealing with stress now because of that. But last year, I guess I don't really care to figure out why or where it came from or what was triggering it. I guess maybe the transformation process and all these new things and everything. Maybe that may have triggered it. I don't know. I don't care. But all I know is that God brought me to a place where I was, for the first time, allowed to experience it for the first time. And I realized that I was experiencing stress. Because I stopped myself for a second. I was like, Fee, this is not me. I don't stress out over stupid shit. I don't get triggered and yell and get upset and get easily irritated by things like this. I'm cool as a cucumber usually, especially for stupid petty things. Like, I know how to pick and choose my battles when it comes to what I'm going to waste my energy on. And I found myself not being that person that I know myself to be. I was like, what is wrong with you? And then as I, allowed yourself to be open to the process of being stressed. After that, God showed me that he allowed me to get to that place, to allow me to see that or experience that, because, and this is after the fact, of course, by doing so, it forced me to lean on him and go to him in a way and for things I never had to before. If I hadn't experienced stress like that, I would have continued being self-reliant, leaning on my own strengths, on my own best qualities that I have in regards to that. I would have never had, and then I knew it was different because when I was going to him and leaning on him, it was a different experience. It was a different phenomenon. It's almost like when you stretch really good and you stretch muscles and you feel muscles and you feel things that you're like, oh, what's that? Whoa, what's that? It's almost like that. So when I realized that, I stopped. It all stopped. All the stress stopped. And I was like, well, I don't really stress knowing why. I let him show me why. But I allow myself to be open to that process by asking. It starts with asking the question first. Okay? So I said, well, I don't know why he did that. But okay, I learned something. I experienced him in a way I never had to before. Cool. And then later he brought back to my remembrance something I learned a long time ago. That sometimes, a lot of things we go through for our growth, but then there are also a handful of things we go through not for ourselves, but for others, so we can help someone else. And you wouldn't be able to help that person in that way down the road if you didn't go through what you went through, But the nice thing about it is that when you go through these things, it's with grace. It is never to break you. It's just a little uncomfortable. I'm always working on myself. I think that's pretty clear. But since I'm always working on myself, I've naturally questioned me. Whenever I face something or have a tiff with someone, I first look at, what is Fee doing? What am I doing wrong? What can I do better? So naturally, that was my approach. When I had a bumpy road with a coworker last year, during all this, it was a whirlwind, honey. This was it was a crazy year for me. I had a bumpy road with a coworker of mine. It's a guy who didn't do things the way someone in his position of authority should be doing, along with a slew of other things because of my supposed rejection of him. But we ain't gonna go there. I'm not gonna put his business out there. But it made me stop and look at myself, of course, the situation first, per usual. And, for the first time it hit me because the situation caused friction with other coworkers. Of course, sides are taken and people act funny. So whatever problem I had with him, it kind of tentacled out to other people. So I had friction with other people too because of it. And then for the first time in my whole life, while I'm self-analyzing and reflecting, I realized, and it was a blessing. It was like a weight was lifted off of me. I had peace about it, and I realized that it's not me. I'm not the problem. Everyone around me that I'm getting hurt feelings because of the way they're handling situations. This situation or the way they're being towards me is not my fault. A lot of times people like to tell me things are my fault, and I know my personality, and of course I know that I have things to work on. But this, it's easy to blame me because I have a very I'm not afraid to be quiet, and speak up when something's wrong, and I'm very, out there with my personality. It's easy to blame me. But for the first time in my life, I was not wrong. What the problem was is that everyone around me did not share the same core values that I had. And it's not that they're wrong. It's not that saying, oh, I'm wrong. I'm not wrong. They're wrong. That's not what I realized. What I realized is that these people around me don't share the same core values, which is why I'm being disappointed and let down and unappreciated and not appreciating them in return. It blew my mind because then when that blew up for me, not everything, but all the applicable events and situations and people I've had in my past, in my life, that's been the case. No, Fee, there's nothing wrong with you. Stop beating yourself up. It's just that the people you were dealing with in that situation or forced to deal with because you had to or whatever, it's just that those people don't share your same core values. Which opens up another thing. Sometimes we have a hard time appreciating. We want it, it's in our heart to appreciate somebody that's in our life. But for some reason, they're just, and as much as you want to appreciate those people, they just, And the problem is you cannot appreciate that person because y'all don't share the same core values. And if that doesn't make any sense, I don't know how to explain it right now any more deeper and more further. But realizing that it all comes down to core values, sharing the same core values with people in literally every situation, not just a romantic relationship with your partner, with a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a husband and wife, everything. Your church, your job, your boss, your coworkers, your peers, your friends, your family members, your fellow students. What do you call it? Like we have coworkers, then we have students. I don't know. There's a word for it. It all boils down to core values, the way you bond, the way you interact, the way you handle, the way they handle situations, the way they handle you, the way you handle them, the way you handle a situation. All those things are dependent and riding on core values. And it's so great to have peace about it because half the time it's not that anyone was wrong. Y'all just don't have the same core values. This person, to them, as far as they could go or as far as they could do, they did the right thing, or they were not at fault, or they have their truth of why they did what they did or reacted the way they reacted. And so do you. So it's not a matter of who was wrong and who was right. It's a matter of, well, where your core values lie in the situation. And then that's the bone marrow. That is the marrow of the bone. That is the white meat. And then from there, everything just kind of falls into place and makes sense. And then you can have more peace that way. Mind blown. I shared a lot. I have more to share, but I'll just do it in a second video.